Hey guys, what's going on? Megan here. All right, the best protein sources, but this time to boost testosterone in fighters. That's different from the other videos, which is to just boost testosterone in the average man. This one is mainly for fighters. I don't care if it's MMA, boxing, wrestling, doesn't matter. Even street fights. Well, no, I would say mainly professional fighters. So the criteria is going to be a little different and it's going to shock a lot of you guys. But don't worry, I'm going to explain why later on. All right, so we're going to use the standard fighting tier list from Smigo tier, Francis Ngannou, Yujiro, Kratos tier, all the way to broadly tier, which is, you should know what broadly tier is. All right, let's get started. Eggs, whole eggs. Now, this is going to shock a lot of you guys, but I'm going to have to put whole eggs in Yujiro tier. I know, usually in all my tier lists, eggs rank super high, but hear me out. When we're dealing with fighters, you actually want to maximize lean protein sources. I know that's usually the opposite of everything I say, but there's a reason for that. Whenever I work with fighters, I have to adjust the macronutrients accordingly, meaning they have to eat up to 60%, some cases even 70% of their calories from carbs because the high intensity training, the high frequency training, right? They're sparring, they're lifting weights, they're doing power work, they're sprinting, they're doing HIIT, they're doing zone 2 cardio. They're doing so much glycolytic activity that their body is in a constant low glycogen state. Meaning, to offset that and keep their testosterone to cortisol ratio high, we have to spam carbs. And sure enough, every time I put fighters on a high carb diet, their performance goes through the roof. And it's not just me. Look at the elite fighters in the world. Most of the diets are 40 to 70% carbohydrates. So again, another big fuck you to the carnivore morons out there who think carbs are not important. Carbs are not important. Carbs are by far the most OP macronutrient for fighters and high-level athletes. Now, of course, more important in the dose response manner, meaning protein is obviously the goal because without protein you pretty much die. But once you get enough protein, right? About, zero point 0.7 to zero point 0.8 grams per pound of body weight for fighters, that is. The rest has to come from carbohydrates, right? Mainly because if you don't, right, if you try to put a fighter on a high protein, high fat, low carb diet, holy fuck, his performance is going to suck ass. The studies show it, real world applications show it. Try it out, guys, right? Because the body tries to make glucose from protein and fats, which takes way too long and is extremely inefficient. So they start training and they hit a wall every time. So because of that, when I'm working with clients, I actually try to give them lean protein sources and, just enough room for the healthy fats to maintain hormone production, testosterone function, and obviously nutrient absorption. So this list is going to be a lot different than most of my tier lists, right? Where usually fatty foods rank high. It's because most of you guys who don't fight and don't train hard every day, you don't need a lot of carbs, right? You don't take my advice. So you're not doing full body 3 times a week. You're not sprinting. You're not doing all the other shit. So you could get away with 50, 40, even 30% of your calories from carbs. But fighters, nah, y'all niggas are fucked. Y'all need a lot of carbs. So because of that, we got to reduce fats, right? Else something's going to give. Not to mention they also have to, stay lean or, God forbid, go down the weight class. Next, we have lean chicken breasts. Oh, God. I hate making this list because it's really the opposite of my other tier list. But I have to put that in Kratos tier. Yes, I have to put it that high for the reasons I explained earlier. Oh, this one's going to hurt me the most. Oh, this is going to hurt me the most. I'm going to come back to this one later. Next, milk. Believe it or not, I'm going to put milk. This one's actually going to hurt me too. I'm going to put milk in. If it's whole milk, I have to put it in Yujiro tier because the fat content is too high. If it's skim milk, then I'm going to put it a lot higher, right? But this is whole milk, so I'm going to put in Yujiro tier, right? For fighters, that is. And the reason why it's still relatively high is because it's still goated as far as hydration index, nutrients, and stuff like that. Next, tuna. Oh, this hurts my soul. Hurts my soul. I got to put in Kratos tier. Yep, I got to put in Kratos tier, unfortunately. For fighters, yeah, very, very important because they're getting a little bit of omega-3s. They're getting the lean protein. And most importantly, there goes that keyword, the lean protein. That frees up a lot of room in their calories for carbohydrates, which is, like I said, the S tier golden nutrient for elite fighters. Next, we have egg whites. Oh, God, I'm about to just delete this video. I hate making this video, guys. Fortunately, egg whites. Yep, I usually shit on egg whites. But for fighters, Take a deep breath, take a deep breath, take a deep breath. I have to put egg whites between broadly and creative steer, but it's going to go in creative steer. All right. It's going to go in creative steer. Yeah, that makes me very upset. But, lean protein sources, very important for fighters. In fact, tuna, I'm actually going to put tuna ahead of chicken breast because of the omega-3s. And the fact that it's not very high in fat as well. Next, we have red meat in general, apart from steak, because steak has its own category here. So that's just red meat in general, right? So that's lamb, goat, bison, kangaroo, whatever. Now, again, if it's lean red meat, I'm going to put it between Udro tier and Kratos tier, depending on how lean it is. If it's high fat, which is usually what I recommend for the average Joe, it obviously will be a lot higher. So I'm going to use this one as, let's say, moderate fat red meat, right? Not super lean. I'm going to put that one around Udro tier. Oh, yes, I know, guys. I know. It hurts. It hurts. But again, it's not until you work with fighters that you realize how important carbohydrates are. But yeah, this one has to be here because of the fat content, right? A lot of these guys are eating 50 to 60 grams of fats a day, right? So if you give them a fatty red meat, boom, they're maxed out on the fats, and now they're not getting enough omega-3s, which is even more important for fighters. So I got to put this one. Now, if it was lean red meat, really lean, then yeah, by all means, it'll be in Kratos tier. Maybe even broadly tier, depending on what it is. Next thing is steak. Again, I hate making a tier list, guys. So once again, if it's lean steak, I'm going to put it somewhere in Kratos tier. But obviously, this is not, this is just average steak cut, which is not going to be lean. It's going to have some fat in it. Fortunately, it's going to have to go in usual tier. And if you increase the fat content even more, right, like a fatty cut, yeah, it's going to go in Francis and Ngannou tier. Definitely not Samigo. So the higher the fat content, the lower it's going to go. And I know a lot of guys are going to be confused. A lot of guys who don't understand hormones and how to adapt the, macronutrient ratio based on the person's activity and sport. You're going to be confused because you're going to be like, wait, Megan, that's like the opposite of everything you preach. Yes, nigga, it is the opposite because, again, athletes, you have to prioritize carbs, unfortunately. And we've tried it, guys. I've tried it. The researchers have tried it. Fucking UFC, Performance Institute. Everyone has been doing research on macronutrients in athletes for decades. That's why I get so mad at the carnivore idiots who try to shit on carbs. Research on carbs and protein and fats and what's more important for what population has been going on for decades. And guess what the conclusion is every fucking time? Carbs are king for people who are super active. It's not even close. That's why I'm so surprised that you guys fall for these scams, because it's not even like it's like 50-50 or some study showing it. No, the vast majority of not just the research, but real life applications show that for athletes, including fighters, you gotta lower protein, you gotta lower fats, and you gotta maximize carbs. Basketball players, NFL players, hockey players, soccer players, MMA fighters, boxers, wrestlers, you name it. You don't believe me? Go do the research. Go look at the highest level coaches and nutrition experts that work with elite athletes. They're tested. They put wires on these motherfucking athletes, and they give them different diets to see what optimizes performance. And carbs always win. So unfortunately I have to put steak here. It really hurts my soul. Next we have salmon, another thing that's gonna fucking hurt me. This one I'm gonna put above steak because it has the omega-3 fats, and I'm also gonna put that one usual tier because it is pretty fatty. Now if it's a leaner version, then obviously it's gonna go here, but fortunately I gotta put this one at usual tier. If you can find a leaner version that has mostly omega-3s and it's not too high in fats, then yeah, it's gonna go here. In fact, and keep in mind the reason why it's under tuna is because tuna actually has less fat than salmon. Next we have shrimp. Believe it or not, shrimp is good for fighters. I'm gonna put that in Kratos tier. Good source of protein, and it's not too high in fats. That gives them plenty of room for carbohydrate spamming. Next we have cottage cheese. Kratos tier for fighters. Right. Next we have Greek yogurt. Again, Kratos tier. Well, actually, wait. The cottage cheese once again, it depends, right? If it's lean, it stays there. If it's high fat, then it goes down to usual tier, right? So if you guys want to use the average cottage cheese, which usually is high in fats, then I'm going to put in usual tier. Lean version is going to go up there, like Greek yogurt. Next we have pork chops. To be specific, obviously usual tier, too high in fat. Next we have cheese. Oof. Unfortunately, I'm sorry guys. Cheese has to go Francis Ngannou tier. Way too high in fat for fighters. Next we have mussels. Believe it or not, mussels are gonna go in Kratos tier. Very, very good quality protein for fighters. Lobster, same thing. Kratos tier, right? Not again. You could also argue that some lobster, some of them are high in fat, but for the most part, not that high. Next we have turkey, right? Fuck ass Thanksgiving turkey and shit. So of course this is the whole animal here, but depending on the cut, like I've been saying, if it's lean, it's gonna go high. If it's a fatty cut, it's gonna go to usual tier. So because it's the whole motherfucking turkey, I'm gonna put in usual tier because there's a lot of, you know, a lot of components of it. It's gonna be high in fat. All right, next we have chicken. Same thing, rotisserie chicken is gonna be in usual tier, right? Because it's kind of high in fat. I want to put it lower, but again, because it's the whole chicken, I have to factor in the lean parts and the fatty parts. Next, you got fuck ass beans. Beans again obviously it depends on which beans we're referring to, but it's gonna shock a lot of you guys. But it's actually in Kratos tier because it's low in fat, high in carbohydrate, relatively high in carbohydrate, right? Good amount of fiber, right? And the only reason I'm not putting higher is because obviously the protein amount is depends on the kind of plant protein that we're working here, because if you watch my other video, I talk about how it's important to have all 9 essential amino acids, and you want it to be a complete protein. So if we're referring to complete plant protein, yeah, I'm going to put that a lot higher. But if we're talking about beans in general, not all of them are complete proteins, I'm going to put that one at Kratos tier. And I know this is like a tragedy to put this above steak, but trust me guys, carbs. All right, next, whey protein. Believe it or not, that's also going to go in Kratos tier. All right, very low in fat, very high in protein. I'm not going to put it higher because the nutrient quality is not as high, but that's definitely going to be a good option for fighters, especially when they're already maxed out, a lot of their fat, and now we're trying to give them more protein, but we're looking for lean sources. Whey protein comes in. Bacon, oh my God, I'm sorry. That goes in Smigo tier. It goes in Smigo tier for too many reasons, right? Obviously, it's very high in fat, and obviously it's super processed, and fighters need, now keep in mind, fighters actually, because fighters do need sodium, especially the ones who sweat a lot. But the issue that I see is a lot of fighters don't eat enough potassium to offset their sodium intake. So I want to put that one somewhere between Francis Ngannou and Smigo. I'll put in Smigo because it's just fat at this point. Fat plus sodium. Next we have, the fuck was this one? Oh, chicken thighs. Chicken thighs, I got to put it lower. I'm going to put in Francis Ngannou tier, right? I got to put it lower than these items because it is relatively high in fat on average. Let's see. Where am I going to put caviar, right? Caviar, I'm going to put it somewhere around, I want to put it around usual tier. I want to put it down here. I want to put it around usual tier. Next, we have oysters. Oysters are going in broadly tier for fighters. I repeat, broadly tier. Not just because there's protein, not just because the fat content is not too high. You also have some omega-3s, but the nutrient density is out of this world. And obviously most fighters are even more nutrient deficient than the average person because they're trained so hard and they're always inflamed and always need to recover. So that's one of the few foods that is on the highest tier, both in this tier list and in my other tier list. Next, tilapia. Oh God, this hurts. But again, I gotta rank this one high. All right, I'm gonna put this one right here in Kratos tier. In fact, I'm gonna put it right here, right? Because I'm spiteful. Yep, tilapia is gonna go in Kratos tier, right? So lean protein source for fighters, not too high in fat, and it has a small amount of omega-3s. Next, we have sardines, which is a goat protein source, right? But unfortunately, I have to put it right here with salmon, right? The omega-3s is what saves it, right? Yeah, gotta put sardines here. Can't go any higher because the fat content. Next, we have beef jerky. Again, beef jerky is gonna go somewhere between Francis Ngannou and like I said, the only downside of beef jerky is it's super processed on top of the super high sodium. But it is lean. It's relatively lean. So I want to put it in usual tier. It's between usual and Francis Ngannou tier, right? Because some beef jerkies, they try to go easy on the processing. So for fighters, I'll put it in. I put in Francis Ngannou tier because there's better options. There's better options, bro. Especially since you don't have a lot of room in your diet for for nutrients, for foods that are low in nutrient quality. Sorry. All right, next we have egg yolks. I'm gonna leave that one for last because it's gonna make me want to cry. Let's go to ground beef. Ground beef, again, it depends. If it's high fat, if it's like 70-30 or some shit, yeah, it's gonna go to Francis Ngannou, right? If it's lean, like 93.7, it's gonna go to Kratos tier, right? And everything else is gonna be in the middle. So because I'm not specifying, I'm just saying ground beef in general, I'm just gonna put in usual tier. You guys should know that if it's lean, it's gonna go higher, and if it's fatty, it's gonna go down here, right? So on average, it's gonna be here. The moment of fucking truth. Oh God, like I said, I'm leaving for last. Liver, believe it or not, broadly tier for fighters. Getting your protein relatively low in fat. It has some fat, but relatively low in fat. And what saves it is the fucking insane nutrient content. The B vitamins, the choline, the copper. Oh my goodness, you cannot go wrong with liver for fighting. In fact, they have to try to not eat. They have to try not to eat too much because I don't want them to get vitamin A poisoning. And here you have organ meats. So I just put a picture of gizzards and shit. It's really organ meats, right? Again, if it's lean, it's gonna go in Kratos tier, right? Sorry, if it's lean, it's gonna go in broadly tier, right? If it has some fat, right, then it's gonna go down to Kratos. So it really depends on which organ we're talking about here. If it's a very fatty organ, it's just gonna keep going down, down, down. But if it's lean, it's gonna go to broadly tier, right? Last but not least, oh God, forgive me. Oh my goodness, this is so haram. What I'm about to do here is so haram. Egg yolks for fighters. Yep, it's in Francis Ngannou tier, guys. Francis Ngannou, the fat content is way too high. And we've tried. The moment you try to give a lot of egg yolks fighters, there is no room left for the rest of their nutrients. But anyway, guys, this is a very painful video to make, but gotta help out a lot of my followers out there who are getting into MMA and combat sports and need to optimize the testosterone diet and keep their cortisol low. Join the fucking school community. It's the best community for testosterone and men who want to improve. I'm out of here.